Hello and welcome to the IIA's CIA Challenge Exam webinar. My name is McKenzie O'Hara and I will be your host for today's broadcast. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. If you experience any technical issues at any point today, try pressing the F5 key on your PC keyboard or the refresh keys on your Mac to refresh. That typically resolves most issues. It's also recommended that you close out other programs on your computer, such as email, to ensure you have the maximum bandwidth to view the program. If you continue to experience challenges, please send us a message using the Q&A feature for technical assistance, and we will work with you in the background to get it resolved. A special thank you to everyone who submitted questions ahead of time. We received hundreds of questions and we will do our best to answer as many as possible at the conclusion of the presentation. Please also feel free to submit any additional questions at any time using the Q&A feature. It's vital that you understand the CIA program and requirements, as well as the most effective ways to study in order to pass the CIA Challenge Exam and earn your CIA certification. Our agenda today is on the screen. We'll be going through the CIA certification program, the traditional path, as well as the CIA Challenge Exam. We'll give you an overview of that. Then I'll be passing it along to my co-presenter to go through exam preparation, including the CIA Challenge Exam study guide. She'll take you through some study tips and test-taking tips. We'll provide links and resources. And then, as stated before, we will be taking some questions at the end. With that, I'll introduce you to our speakers for today. I'm going to be your first speaker. Again, my name is McKenzie O'Hara. I'm the project manager within the certifications department at IIA headquarters in Lake Mary, Florida. And with me is Jami Shine. Jami has her CIA, CRMA, and CISA. She's the corporate and IT manager at Quick Trip Corporation, where she manages operational, IT, and financial audits and consulting engagements and co-facilitates the Enterprise Risk Management Program. She enjoys being a facilitator for the IIA, leading both online and in-person trainings, speaking at conferences, and serving as the president of the IIA Tulsa chapter. She also serves on the IIA's Institute Relations Committee and loves any chance to share her passion for risk management and internal audit. I'm really happy to have her with me today. Let's begin. Like I said before, we're going to go through the CIA certification, and then we'll move into the specifics of the challenge exam. We are nearing the 200,000 mark for CIAs globally, which we're very excited about. We just crossed 190,000 a few days ago, actually. And it really is a global certification. No matter where you are in the world, it's a certification that you can certainly put to good use. And the challenge exam is a great way to get there. Okay, so no matter what option you choose, you'll be following this three-step path, whether you do the traditional CIA or the CIA challenge exam. You will start by submitting an application, of course, and you'll do that through CCMS, which you can access from the IIA's website. You'll complete all your application requirements and submit some documentation, and then you'll receive a program approval. Now, for the challenge exam, depending on which one you're interested in, you will have to submit some kind of proof of good standing, either with ISACA and prove that you have your CISA, or you'll have to submit proof that you are a US CPA or hold your accounting licensure from one of the other approved accounting bodies. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Once you are applied and approved into the program, you will study, and Jami's going to talk to you about that, and take a one-part exam. So the traditional CIA is 3 parts, 3 separate exams, but if you take the CIA Challenge exam, it is just a one-part exam. You have a window that you have to complete all the requirements in. So from the time that you apply, that's 180 days or 6 months to sit for your one-part exam. Once your exam results are confirmed, your CIA certification will be awarded to you. And each year after that, you will have to complete your annual certification renewal requirements, which includes 40 hours of CPE each year. Okay, so the CIA Challenge exam, like I stated before, it's a one-part exam. It's 150 multiple choice questions, and it's based on the syllabi. So we have 2 different challenge exams. It will be, of course, depending on the one that you qualify for and apply to. It's based on the IPPF and the standards. You have 180 minutes to answer the 150 questions. It is currently offered in English only. It is based on a scaled scoring. So you need a passing score of 600 out of 750 points. Basically what this means is that every question is weighted a little bit differently. They're not all exactly the same. So I can't tell you, the number of questions that you need to get right out of the 150. It all depends. And it's developed following best practices with the support of experts and professionals in the field. You can test online or at a testing center, depending on what part of the world you're in. Okay, so one of my favorite things about the CIA Challenge exam is that it does come in a bundled package. So what this means is, in addition to your application and exam registration fees, you also get your study materials included for the same price. And those study materials include 1,000 practice questions. So normally when you take the CIA, you pay your application fee, then you pay separate registration fees for all 3 exams, and then you buy whatever study materials you'd like. With the challenge exam, it's one bundled price, and it's a pretty good deal, especially if you are an IIA member, you get an even further discount. So like I said before, you have 180 days from the time you apply to register for your exam, schedule it, and take it. So you have 6 months. That's important to know. You get 1 exam registration included in this bundle. So in the event you don't pass the exam, you do have to purchase a retake. Retakes would not be included. As I stated before, you get the custom study guide, including 1,000 practice questions. You get access to the standards, and there's a great discount for IIA members. Okay, so the syllabi, again, going to be different depending on which challenge exam you take. You can access both of the syllabi from the IIA's website. You'll go to theiia.org/CIA challenge, and both syllabi are listed right there for you. Okay, program timeline. So it is officially April, which means that the application window is open. You cannot apply for this program year-round. So you are able to apply right now until September. We used to do just certain months. We did decide to keep it open from April through September. So you have a few months to apply. But after September, that's it. You'll have to wait until next April. Now, I want you to think about when you apply strategically, because as I stated before, you have 6 months to test. So we offer 4 test windows throughout the year. That'll be June, August, November, and February. You can test any day of those months, but it is only those months. So if you applied now, you wouldn't probably be able to test in February, right? Because your 6-month window would be up. So just think about when you want to test and then time your application with that. You can register for retakes all year long in the event that you don't pass your exam. But again, you can only test in those 4 test windows. So February, June, August, and November of each year. Okay, so let's get into the 2 separate exams. Who's eligible? We have a challenge exam for CISA holders. You must be an active CISA holder to apply for this exam. You will have to prove that you have your CISA before you're approved into the program. Then we have our accounting body challenge exam. We have many dozens of accounting bodies that are approved. Of course, US CPAs, Canadian CAs, ACCA, and many more. You can go to the website that I mentioned before, the iia.org/CIA challenge, and there's a full list of them there. So if you are from a different country and you're interested to see if your accounting body is listed, go check it out. Okay, and with that, I'm going to pass it on to Jami, and she will move into some of the study tips and practice questions, and then we will be taking questions at the end.
Thank you so much, McKenzie, and thank you for covering all of the information about the challenge exam. I am going to just start off by saying I am so jealous of all of you. I love that you are getting to sit for a 1-part exam instead of the 3-part exam that I sat for, and I'm going to date myself. I actually sat for a 4-part exam when I got my CIA years ago. So you are incredibly lucky that you're getting to take this 1-part exam. And I think it's such a great opportunity. Another thing that I'm jealous of is I love that you get this bundle where the study materials are included as well. Years ago, when I sat for my CIA and earned my certification, I used the CIA learning system. And for me, it was such a great resource and such a great tool that I really credit with my success. I passed all 4 parts the first time, and that would not have been the case if I had not utilized the CIA learning system and all of the great technology that it had. Even back then, I'm thinking it was probably 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago that I passed my CIA exam. It was really cutting edge technology with the online quizzes, with the practice exams. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I tell the participants when I teach the CIA learning system courses, as well as the things that helped me when I was studying for the exam. So first, we're just going to talk about what the study guides look like. Some of you may have already registered and may have already gotten to look at the study guides, but if you haven't, this is a fully online learning experience where everything that you need, you can look at it on an e-reader. You can look at it on your phone, on a laptop, and that makes it so easy to study because you can study anywhere that you are. Something else that's nice is if you don't have internet connection, you can actually download the reading materials to your e-reader and you can read them even when you don't have internet connection. So let's say that maybe you're on a flight. That's a great time to study for the exam. In addition to these comprehensive online reading materials, you also get 1,000 practice exam questions, which is huge. Your exam will have 150 total questions. When you take the exam, you're going to get to practice 1,000 practice exam questions, which is super useful. For me personally, when I was studying for the exam, I found the practice exam questions to be the most useful part because they helped me understand, can I actually apply the knowledge that I've read about, the knowledge that I've learned? Can I apply it in these real world scenarios in a lot of cases that the practice exam questions cover? Now, the practice exam questions are not going to be the exact same questions that you see on the exam, But when I took the exam, I did feel that the practice exam questions were a great example of the types of questions that I would get on the actual exam. And I love that the practice exam questions, they're in the same format as the real exam questions will be. They also really test your comprehension of the material. Can you apply these concepts that you've studied? You get a glossary of terms, you get a video tutorial that provides an overview of the IPPF components, and you have access to these online study tools. Generally, it's for 1 year. Right now, because of the changes, because of the new IPPF that will be going into effect next year, your access will expire February 28th, 2025, but you have access to the reading materials if you download them forever. So you can read those anytime you want to, if you would like some nice bedtime reading. So again, these reading materials, you can read them online if you prefer, or you can even download them to your e-reader device. Something that I love about the format of this tool is that you can even see in the slide, you can see the blue font. Those are links. So as you're going through the content and maybe you want a little bit more information or a little more detail, it will actually link you. You can click on those links and go straight to IIA guidance and resources, which is so nice because there are going to be times that you're doing your reading and you realize that you have so much expertise in that area. So you may not need to study as much in that area, but then in other areas, maybe you don't have a lot of experience or expertise. And so you can click on those links and go right to the IIA guidance and resources that are going to be extremely helpful to you. And another thing on those resources, McKenzie already mentioned that if you're an IIA member, you get a discount when you're registering for the challenge exam. Another benefit of that is there are a lot of additional free resources that you can log in as a member and you can study more on the IIA's website. So I highly recommend that personally. I don't make any money off of you becoming a member, but my IIA membership has been incredibly valuable for me as a practitioner and for so many reasons. So I'll save that for another webinar. But if you haven't become an IIA member, that's something that you might think about. If you're going to get your CIA, there are a lot of benefits of being a member of the IIA. In your content, you're also going to have access to quizzes and a practice exam. There are 13 section quizzes if you are taking the QAB. If you're taking the QISA, Qualified Information Systems Auditors, there's 14 section quizzes. The exams are going to be a little bit different because they're filling in the gaps. You're not having to test on the content that you already should have expertise in that you've demonstrated by earning those other certifications that qualify you to take this challenge exam. So you're going to be focusing on the content that wasn't covered in your other exams. So again, you get these 13 or 14, depending on which version you have, section quizzes. And I personally love the section quizzes because you get immediate feedback and it tells you the rationale behind the right and wrong answers, which is invaluable. So as you're going through the section quizzes, I encourage you to take them multiple times. The reason that you would take them multiple times is because each time you take a section quiz, you're going to get some new questions. There's this huge bank of 1,000 practice questions and new ones are going to be rotating in. So take those quizzes over and over again and make sure that you aren't just guessing and getting the right answer. Let's be honest, you have a 25% chance of getting the right answer if you guess. So if you guess and you get it right, don't just move on. Always read the rationale and make sure that you got the right answer for the right reason, that you really understand why it's right. I also encourage you, don't just know why the right answer is right. As you're studying, look at the other answers and try to make sure that you understand why they're either wrong or not the best choice. There are going to be times in the CIA exam that there are multiple answers that could be right, but one of them is the best answer. So focus on understanding why that answer is the best answer, even if maybe there's another answer that could be right. And then you also have your final practice exam. And that is going to be basically a real-world simulation of what it's going to be like to sit for the exam. In your section quizzes, as soon as you submit one answer, it'll immediately tell you if you were right or not for that question and tell you why you were right or wrong. Whereas with the practice exam, it's like taking the real exam. You have 3 hours. 150 questions. Well, you have 150 questions, and I encourage you to really budget your time, because in the real world, you'll have 3 hours and you get to simulate taking the actual exam. Something that can be very tempting, because 150 questions is a lot of questions and that can feel overwhelming. So it can be very tempting in that moment to say, yeah, I'm going to take 20 questions and then I'm going to come back to it and then I'll do another 20, and to stretch it out over a long period of time. I encourage you not to do that. It will be much better for you to prepare yourself for that, quite frankly, long exam. 150 questions is a lot. Make sure that you've already put yourself through that experience and gotten good feedback on it. Some things that you may realize as you sit down for that 150 question exam is, maybe I fly through the first 60 questions and then my mind starts to wander. So you can see where you start to get stuck and proactively plan, make a plan so that that won't happen when you're taking the actual exam in real life, so that I know that I can sit down and I can answer 150 questions in a 3-hour window. Something else that I encourage as you're taking the quizzes, but especially as you're taking that final practice exam, this is a great way to pace yourself and get an understanding of, am I going to be able to complete 150 questions within this 3-hour time frame? Something that I like to recommend is pace yourself to spend no more than 1 minute per question. If you do that, then it'll take you 2.5 hours to get through those 150 questions. And then you have 30 minutes at the end where you can review your work. You can flag a question and come back to it. So that's going to be really helpful to you to figure out, how long does it actually take me to answer these questions? Is it taking me too long? You don't want to spend all of that time studying and learning the material and investing in it and then run out of time during the actual exam. So I can't stress enough, take the section quizzes over and over again. Take the practice test. I recommend doing it multiple times as well, partially to make sure that you've mastered the content and get feedback that you're ready to take the exam, but partially it's going to help you prepare to get into that frame of mind to sit through that 3-hour, 150 question exam and know that you can do it and know that you're comfortable doing it. Some people want to also purchase the additional exam prep course. This is not required to sit for the exam, and it's also not required to pass the exam. But for some people, this gives you a little bit more structure. So as you're evaluating whether or not you should purchase the on-demand QAB exam prep course, think about your study style. Is this going to be a good fit for you? Do you want to study independently, or would it be helpful to you to also have access to this on-demand platform with these additional resources? It's going to review the topics that are covered by the challenge exam and give you that strong overview of the standards. It's available in English, and it's delivered through video segments. So for some of you, it might be helpful to you to, instead of just reading the content, to be able to watch these videos on the content. It has 3 modules, and it's a 14-hour course. It does still provide you the flexibility to study on your own. So you're not having to attend a live course at a certain time of the day. You can take this on-demand course and take the modules anytime you want to. And if you are interested, you can register at the link that's on your screen. If you go to the resources icon on your screen and click on that, that's going to enable you to download these slides. And so if you download the slides, then you will have the link and you can register for that supplemental exam prep course if you think that that's a good fit for you. Again, that's not required to take that to pass the test. Lots of people pass the exam without taking that course, but that course is also a great resource for you if it would help your study style. So now we're going to talk about some study tips, some ways to be successful in studying for the exam. First of all, choose your study method. Think about your study preferences. I can tell you how I studied for the exam, but we're different people. So what worked for me may not work for you, or it may work great for you. And that's something for you to think about on your own, right? How do I study best? There are several people in my IIA chapter, and they have these resources. So they've been getting together to use their CIA learning system to study together, to talk through, how do you feel about that? How did you get that answer in that practice quiz? Because I'm getting a different answer and I'm wrong. So how are you coming up with that? Maybe it's helpful for you to study with a friend or a colleague. Maybe you study best on your own. Maybe you need to dedicate some time when it's quiet. Think about the environment that you need for your study method. Or maybe it's a great thing for you to do when you're flying or on the road, obviously not driving, or maybe you're doing it on your lunch break. Choose the study method that's going to work for you. Be realistic. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who fail the CIA exam because they weren't realistic. They registered for the exam, they forgot about it, life got busy, and then they didn't study until maybe a month before the exam. I advise you not to do that. Now, some people can pass in that amount of time, but really be realistic. Think about how long it's going to take you to study for the exam. We say that you should expect to study 50 or more hours. 50 would be the minimum amount of hours. So if I'm going to study 50 hours, I'm probably not going to register to take the exam next week. Make sure that you have a plan and that you're building margin into your plan. And again, avoid procrastination. That's so hard to do. Life gets so busy. So again, build that margin into your plan. Don't register to take the exam next week. Give yourself several months, ideally, to study for it. And then put it on your calendar. Set a study plan and stick to it. Just like you would set a meeting at work, set a study plan. Put it on your calendar. I'm going to study from 5 to 6 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe, or whatever it is for you. And stick with that study plan. We like to say, show up to study. And that's something that you're doing for yourself, because this designation, the CIA designation, it is the only globally recognized internal audit certification. This shows your audit clients that they can trust you, that you can bring value, that you know what you're doing as an auditor. So think about that end goal when you're showing up to study. Think about having those 3 letters behind your name. Something that you might do is create some flashcards with key terms to help you learn them and make sure that you know how to apply them. This is a big one. Focus on the proficiency areas. If you go to the IIA's website and you download the syllabus will list all of the topics, and it lists them as either a P or a B. B stands for basic, P stands for proficiency. Basic means you need to have a basic level of understanding. So you need to have a general understanding of that topic, a general knowledge of that topic. Proficiency level items, the questions are going to be testing your ability to understand and actually apply those concepts. So focus your studying on those proficiency areas. Make sure you can apply what you're learning. Understand that application. And go beyond memorization. If you're just memorizing the materials, you may not pass the exam. You have to be able to apply it to real-world scenarios. And in some cases, those real-world scenarios might be different than the scenarios that you've encountered in your specific industry, in your specific company. So think globally. Be prepared for that computer-based test format. And that's where I think this tool, the study guide that you get, is invaluable, because you're already familiar with the computer-based test format. Take those practice quizzes. Take that practice exam. That's going to make it so familiar and so much more comfortable for you when you sit down to take the actual exam. Pay special attention to the IPPF, to the standards. A lot of the test is focused on the standards. Do you know the standards of internal auditing, and can you apply the standards in your work? Something that you could even do is write an audit manual, or maybe if you don't want to go that far, maybe write the table of contents to an audit manual and reference the IPPF, because that will take you through an audit start to finish. How would I do an audit in accordance with the standards start to finish? And then consider real life examples. Now, I'm going to caution you here, definitely think about real life examples. And I encourage you, as you study, think, how would I apply this in my current role? Or if I were the chief audit executive at my company, how would I apply this? How would I apply this when I get promoted to audit manager or audit lead? How do we already apply this? But when you are taking the exam, don't get hung up on or caught up on how you do it at your organization. You need to think globally. This is a global exam. It may be that you work for a small nonprofit organization or a small private organization, And so some of the things that you read in a question, you may think, well, we would do it this way, but think globally. How would a global organization apply the standards here? And when you're taking the test, there are a few tricks that you can apply to help you rule out some of the wrong answers. First of all, read the last sentence or the question before the details. Some of the questions are fairly long because they're providing you a lot of information that you have to evaluate. So read the question first. What good does it do me to read all this information and forget it before I even know what I should be looking for? So first say, what are they asking me? What do I need to know? Then go through and read all the information, specifically thinking about what is the question. Look for some clues like all, except, not, words that are kind of extreme. Words like all, never, those are extreme words. Is something generally never happening or all of the time? If it has those kind of words, that is often an indication that it may not be the right answer. So really focus on those clues. Also, make sure that you read the question accurately. I have actually missed questions when I've taken the practice exam because I didn't read the question. I knew the content, but maybe I missed the word except for, or not. And maybe I answered the question the opposite way because I just didn't read it right. You do not want to miss questions just because you didn't read them. So those are the easy things that you can do to help yourself. Another thing that you can do is, instead of reading the question and going straight to the answer choices, read the question, then think to yourself, based on everything that you've studied and your experience as an auditor, what would the right answer be? And then as you already know the answer, then you can read the choices and pick the one that matches what the answer is. That can be a great way to rule out some of the tricky answers. Also, again, make sure that you're not just thinking about your own experience and your own industry. Answer broadly and globally. Something that we like to say is, give yourself a promotion when you're studying for the exam. You are now the chief audit executive of a publicly traded company. You have a large audit department with lots of different staffing levels, and you report to the audit committee of the board. So give yourself that promotion and frame your answers from that context. Also, eliminate the obvious distractors. Most of the time, there are two answers that are so obviously wrong that you can immediately eliminate them. Most of the time. So when you're going through those answers, say, okay, that one's obviously wrong. I know that's not it. Go ahead and eliminate those two, and then narrow it down to the two better answers. And then from there, you can start to really evaluate which of these two is the best choice. Plus, the good news here is that you'll probably get at least 50% of the questions right just by eliminating the obviously bad choices. So again, narrow it down to the two best options and then debate from there. Trust your first impressions and don't overanalyze. This is something that I tend to do sometimes, so I have to really be careful about it. What I found when I was taking practice tests is that often if I was stuck between two options, they both looked right to me, and I picked one, if I came back later and I changed it to the second one, I was usually right initially. Now, obviously, that's not always going to be the case, but trust your first impressions. And if you don't know the answer, don't leave it blank. Never leave it blank. You have a 25% chance of just guessing the correct answer. So always, always, always select an answer. And then if you don't know it, if you're uncertain, you can flag it for review later. That's part of why we recommend budgeting your time and spending no more than 1 minute per question, so that you have that 30 minutes at the end of the exam to go back through. And I personally review every answer, but some people may just review the ones that they flagged. The system allows you to actually flag a question, which means, I'm not sure on this one. I want to come back to it later. And then if you have time at the end, you can spend more time analyzing it. But again, budget your time. Don't spend 10 minutes on one question and then miss a question at the end because you didn't have time to get to it. So budget your time. You will have an advantage on the exam if you audit manufacturing, accounts payable, purchasing, inventory, receivables. So if you don't have any experience in any of those, it might be good to really focus on some of those sections on the exam and just make sure that you have a general understanding of those things, how you might audit them. Also, be well rested and comfortable for the exam. There's nothing like showing up to an exam, knowing the content, and then getting distracted because you didn't sleep all night. In fact, I recommend don't stay up all night studying. Go to bed early the night before you're going to take the exam. At that point, you have had months to study. You know the content. Be confident. Go to bed, get a good night's sleep, eat a good breakfast or lunch or whatever meal it is before the exam. Make sure that you're comfortable. If you're going to take the exam at one of the testing centers, I recommend dressing comfortably. Dress in layers so that something like an extreme temperature isn't preventing you from being able to focus on the exam. For me personally, I'm very easily distracted by noises, and something that the testing center will offer as an option for you, which was so helpful to me, is noise canceling headphones to block out the noises of everyone else in the testing center. That really enabled me to focus. So that's something that if you're like me, you may even want to ask for. But again, make sure that you are showing up, putting yourself in the best situation to pass the exam, that you have done everything. Eliminate all those distractions so that all that you're having to focus on is the test itself. And pick the most comfortable environment for you. As you're taking the exam, something else I recommend is stay in a neutral mindset. Stress or even negative thinking, worrying about, am I going to pass? What if I didn't get that question right? That can affect the way that our brains process information. So stay in a positive or neutral mindset as you're taking the exam. Don't allow yourself to stress as you're taking the exam. Don't even allow those thoughts to come into your brain. Just stay focused on the questions themselves and be confident because you know that you've studied, because you know that you showed up to take the exam. And then always ask, what information is relevant to the question being asked? Especially for those longer questions, make sure that you're not getting distracted by extraneous information that isn't relevant to the question being asked. And again, really go through that syllabus and make sure that you understand the level of understanding needed. Do I need a basic level of understanding where I can apply or I can understand general knowledge of that topic? Or do I need that proficiency level of understanding where I need to really be able to understand and apply the concepts? If you're a newer internal auditor, something that you might consider is as you're studying for the exam, after you study a section, go talk to an auditor that you respect who has experience. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your supervisor, and talk to them about how you might apply that content in real life situations. I say that for two reasons. One, it will help you pass the exam because it'll certainly help with those proficiency level items. But I think sometimes we also get very focused on passing an exam. The CIA exam is a fantastic resource as an auditor, not just because it gives you letters behind your name or gives you that proof, essentially, that you know what you're doing. It's a fantastic resource because what you're studying when you're studying for the exam is going to directly help you on the job. You are learning the things that you need to know to be a fantastic internal auditor. So take the time as you're studying for the exam to think about how you're going to apply this content on the job. We are going to do some practice questions together. So our first practice question is about independence and objectivity. And I'm going to have you, if you would like, and if you feel comfortable, enter what you think the correct answer is in the chat. Which of the following statements is true? A, the internal audit activity must be independent and internal auditors must be objective. B, the internal audit activity must be objective and internal auditors must be independent. C, the internal audit activity and internal auditors must be independent and objective. Or D, the internal audit activity must be independent, internal auditors must be independent and objective. I'm going to give you a hint on this one because it's our first one. This one, the answer comes directly from the standards, from the IPPF. So I'm going to give you about a minute to think about it and to put your answer in the chat. And I love that so many of you have already responded in the chat. This one is a tricky one. I'm seeing a lot of diverse answers. I am seeing a lot of right answers. We're going to give you 10 more seconds. Okay, final answers. The correct answer, oh, it did not show us the correct answer, so I will tell you the correct answer. The correct answer is A. The internal audit activity must be independent and internal auditors must be objective. This comes 100% from the standards. And so if you had been through, and I know you haven't yet because you're in the process of studying or thinking about registering, but as you study, this is something that if you went through the study materials, you would say, oh, great, I know this one because this came straight from the standards. And the study guide is very much based on the standards. Internal auditors must be objective. Objectivity refers to a state of mind. And so internal auditors have to always have that objective state of mind. Whereas the internal audit activity or our group must be independent. Independent, according to the definition in the standards, refers to our reporting structure. It means that we report up to the board or the equivalent of the board. So for example, the audit committee. So that really applies to the internal audit group, the internal audit activity. We must be independent because of our reporting structure, whereas individual internal auditors must be objective in mindset. It's a very tricky question. It's a very tricky question. And it really comes down to the way that these words are defined in the standards. Here's our next question. This one is about managing the internal audit activity. Which is the most advanced set of core internal audit skills? A, process narratives and flowcharts. B, governance structure, ERM, and development of controls in the natural course of business. C, strong understanding of risk assessment, risk ranking, and business operations. Or D, financial accounting, internal controls, regulations, and policies. And I'll give you a hint. This is based on the maturity model for internal audit functions. We're going to give you about a minute to think about what your answer might be. Let's take 10 more seconds. Final answers. I'm seeing a lot of correct answers coming in. The correct answer here is B, governance structure, ERM, and development of controls in the natural course of business. And this is another example where the study guide and learning about the maturity model is going to be incredibly helpful in studying for the exam. So let's first of all think about why each other answer might not be right. First of all, A, process narratives and flowcharts. That would be not an advanced set of core internal audit skills, right? We expect every internal auditor to know how to prepare process narratives and flowcharts. So we can automatically eliminate A. And I think this question is a great example where you can eliminate 2 obviously wrong answers, and then you have 2 pretty good choices to choose between. So we know that A is wrong. Every internal auditor should be able to make a process narrative or a flow chart. D is the other, in my opinion, obvious answer that we would eliminate: financial accounting, internal controls, regulation, and policies. Internal controls, every auditor should understand internal controls, regulations, policies, and then financial accounting, depending on the internal auditor, they may or may not need to have a strong understanding of financial accounting. If you're an IT auditor, you may not even need to have an understanding of financial accounting. So I wouldn't pick D for that reason. Then we've got B and C are both pretty good answers, right? And I saw a lot of people pick B and I saw a lot of people pick C. And this is where we come down to the maturity model. We've got 5 levels in the maturity model. Level 1 is initial internal operations, and initial internal audit operations require some skills in financial accounting, depending on the type of auditor that you are, internal controls, regulations, and policies. Level 2 would be repeatable. Repeatable internal audit operations require process narrative and flowcharting skills. Level 3 would be defined. Defined internal audit operations require a strong understanding of risk assessment, risk ranking, and business operations. So that would be C. That's how we eliminate C. We know C is level 3, whereas level 4, managed internal audit operations require skills in awareness of governance structure development, ERM, and business understanding of how controls are developed in the natural course of business. So that's how we come up with B as being the most advanced set of skills. And then we have one more practice question. This one is also on managing the internal audit activity. Which of the following roles has day-to-day responsibility for data governance? Is it A, risk management, B, management, C, internal audit, or D, the board? I feel like there are 2 pretty good answers here. And the way you're going to choose is focus on the word day-to-day. Let's take about 30 seconds to answer this one. I am seeing a lot of correct answers coming in. Great job. Let's take 5 more seconds. Final answers. The correct answer is B, management. Let's talk through this one. Why isn't it A? Why isn't it risk management? Risk management is a second line function. So a second line function shouldn't have day-to-day responsibility for data governance. Management is the correct answer because they have that day-to-day responsibility for data governance. Management is that first line. Then C, internal audit, we're the third line. So we definitely can't have day-to-day responsibility for data governance. That would be a huge independence issue, right? So we know C is wrong. And then the board. Now, the board has general oversight and governance for the entire organization, but they're not going to have day-to-day responsibility for data governance. So management is the correct answer. And I even saw somebody put, great job, Dexter, in the chat. Yes, risk management is second line. So that's why risk management can't be the correct answer, because they're a second line function. Good job. Well, thank you guys so much, and great job to those of you who took our practice questions. I'm going to hand it back over to McKenzie.
Okay, so we've got just a few minutes left, and I think we will take some questions with our remaining time. So we did have some questions prior to the broadcast, and then we've been gathering questions throughout the broadcast. So here we go. Let's take a couple of them. One thing that we were seeing quite a lot of in the chat was related to the schedule, the 180 days, and what happens if you apply now? When can you take the exam? So the application for both challenge exams is open now through the 30th of September. So it'll be open for a few months. You have 180 days to register and take your exam from the time you apply and get approved, okay? So if you apply today, but you're not approved for, let's say, a week, the time doesn't start until you get approved. So once you're approved into the program, you have 180 days to register and take your exam, which means if you got approved next week, you could either test in June or August. If you wait until, let's say, September to apply and get approved, you could test in November or February. So it's all depending on the time that you're approved into the program. You have 180 days from then to take your test. I hope that provided a little more clarity. Another question that I was seeing a few times was about the exams themselves. It is 2 different exams. So we have one exam for qualified accounting bodies, and then we have a different exam, different questions, different syllabus for the CISA holders. They are 2 separate exams, but they're the same price. I got some pricing questions as well. They are the same price. Okay, let's see here. I have a question for Jami. How many practice exam questions are there in the study guide?
That's a great question. There are 1,000 practice questions in the study guide, and if you retake the section quizzes, you're going to see new questions. So that's why we recommend that you take those several times.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see here. Another question. Will I be able to test from home throughout the year? I saw people asking about their specific locations. Yes, in most areas you can test from home. If you have any questions that are specific to your situation, what I want you to do is create a CCMS account if you don't have one already. And under the Help tab in CCMS, you can open a case. That's going to be your best way of getting detailed answers to your specific questions about your area, about your specific testing, issues or registration issues, anything like that. We have a dedicated team that answers those cases all day long, and they are very, very knowledgeable. So go to CCMS under the Help tab and open a new case if you have any very specific questions. Here is another question for Jami. Do you recommend I take the on-demand course for the QAB challenge exam? Will it help me pass?
That is another really great question. It is going to depend on you and your study style. So somebody who prefers to learn from an instructor in a video format, it's going to be a great option for you. Whereas it's definitely not needed to pass the course, but it may be a great option for your study style. Again, that video content is really helpful for a lot of people.
Okay, and another question on that same topic that I saw was, is there a similar option for the CISA challenge exam? At this time, we do not have the additional course for the CISA challenge exam, but you can take it if you are taking the accounting body challenge exam. Okay, another question here. What if someone is already enrolled in the traditional CIA program? Can they transfer over to the challenge exam? You can. So this is all done through CCMS. You will need to deactivate your traditional CIA program before you can apply to the challenge exam. Again, if you need any help with this, actually, I think the team does have to assist you with this. You're going to go into your CCMS account under that help tab, open a new case, and they can help you out with sorting through that process. All righty, let's see here. Another question for Jami. When I'm taking the online practice quizzes, what % score do you recommend I achieve to know I'm ready for the exam?
We recommend scoring at least 80%, but personally, I'd recommend scoring in the 90th percent just to ensure that you have a full understanding of the information.
Good idea. Okay, we'll do just a couple more and then we will send everybody on their way. I saw a question that said, if I have a CPA and a CISA, how do I decide which exam to take, which challenge exam to take? That is going to be you and what subject you feel more comfortable with. So basically what happens is the way these challenge exams are designed and written is we look at the syllabi from either the accounting exams or the CISA exam, and then we compare that with the CIA syllabi, and we take off any overlap. So we take away anything that you've already been tested on your CISA exam or in your accounting licensure exams. So for example, if you're looking at the CISA challenge exam, there's not going to be very much IT on it because we've taken away everything you've already been quizzed on from your CISA exam, which is IT heavy. So there's going to be less IT on the CISA challenge exam. If you feel like that's a strong subject area for you, maybe you would want to take the other one because the IT topics would remain. I hope that makes sense, but it's definitely a personal choice that only you can make. All righty. I also saw some pricing questions. Again, please go to the iia.org/CIA challenge and then choose which exam you're interested in. You'll see the pricing, you'll see retake pricing. It is cheaper for IIA members. The initial price is cheaper and the retakes are actually cheaper as well if you're a member. And if you do not live in the United States and you're interested in IIA membership, please contact your local affiliate. They can assist you with that. They can get you set up with membership so that you are ready to go before you apply. Don't start your application until your membership is situated if you are going to become a member. You'll definitely want to do that part first. Okay, we'll just do one last question and then we will wrap it up. Let's see here. Last one is, will you explain the exam scoring again? Yes, of course. So your raw score is calculated based on the number of questions that you answered correctly. And then that's converted into a reporting scale that ranges from 250 to 750 points. So like I said before, each question is weighted a little bit different, and you'll need a score of 600 or higher to pass either one of the exams. Okay, that is the conclusion of today's broadcast. Again, many thanks to my co-presenter Jami for a great program. We're going to display today's post-event survey to you. If you are not able to see the survey, please go to the survey widget where you can locate the survey link. Thank you again and have a great day, everyone.